26-24. And again, key for me in this game is how well Freeman and Coleman produce for Atlanta down the stretch in the passing game, and then how well do they stop Michael for Seattle. If he gets going and they're able to control the clock, I think Atlanta will struggle a little bit, and that crowd will be a big factor in that game. So it could be a lower scoring game than what either myself or our prediction machine is looking for this.
Definitely, and like we talked about last week, those running backs really did make a difference in that game. They could have a similar impact this week.
Yep.
Here's a side question for you. Will Vic Beasley, who is now this year's Khalil Mack playing the Denver Broncos, be able to continue his performance this week?
I think he does have a good shot at getting 2 sacks again this week. Seattle's line's beat up, even though they're coming off of a bye week. They're giving up a ton of sacks. Russell Wilson has been getting pounded in the pocket all season long, and he's got a lot of confidence now coming off those 2 sacks. So I think that could be a big factor.
All right.
Atlanta could have a similar package as far as getting to the quarterback and forcing Russell Wilson to check down or get outside the pocket and see what he can do. They've got some playmakers on the outside as well, but I think Atlanta's secondary can certainly ball hawk around the wide receivers in Seattle.
Agreed. I'm rooting for the young man. Let's hope he continues to grow.
Yep.
All right, here's a team being led by young men right now, the Dallas Cowboys. They're taking on, as you described, a very meager Green Bay Packers team this week. But it's always a good matchup, the Cowboys and the Packers. But break this one down for us.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, Cowboys, what can I say? I did not expect them to just put a beat down on the Bengals last week.
No.
And it's really all about game plan for them. They're letting the offensive line just control the field, and they'll dink and dunk down the field. They don't care. That's why Des Bryant hasn't been a factor all season, because that's just not part of the game plan that they've got in place today.
Yep.
But this week, they get the number 1 rushing defense. Mm-hmm. So just like we had last week, Denver's defense against Atlanta, this matchup brings the top rushing attack in the NFL against the leading defensive team against the run. And I think part of that has to do with Green Bay susceptible in the passing game. And so teams have just thrown the ball more against Green Bay so far this season. So I think that's a little misleading than what it really comes into. But at the end of the day, they're giving up 2 yards a rush, and I think Cowboys are just over 5.5 yards a rush right now. So it's going to be a matchup in the trenches for sure. Whoever controls that line of scrimmage is going to be the victor in this one. I talked a little bit about Aaron Rodgers, but just looking at the passes that he's thrown, he's had, I think right now he's ranked 25th in the passing game in terms of balls that could have been intercepted. So he threw 2 picks last week, but he had 8 other balls that could have been intercepted in that game. And he's just forcing it to Jordy Nelson. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I don't think Dallas' defense is really a good matchup for Aaron Rodgers from can they stop the receiving core. I think Aaron Rodgers should have a big day against the Cowboys secondary. But I've got this game a squeaker as well. Green Bay winning 22-21.
Okay, I like that. Anytime you got Aaron Rodgers, you got a chance. At some point, these young Cowboys do have to come down to earth a little bit. So maybe this is the week something goes right for the Packers.
If Elliott gets over 100 yards rushing, I think Cowboys win. That'll be the key to me.
Yeah. If that happens, Cowboys win. I agree with that. And let's do one more before we get out of here. We love the upset alerts. Who we got this week?
For sure. So last week our upset alert came through. Washington pulled out the victory over Baltimore by exactly 6 points, like we talked about.
Yep.
So this week, crazy to think about it, but San Francisco crossing country, going up to Buffalo and starting Colin Kaepernick. So we don't know what we're going to get out of Kaepernick. For all we know, it's terrible like Gavin has been. But from us at the Dirt Cannon, we've got the 49ers traveling across country and winning the game against the Bills 26-20. I think San Francisco's defense is a little underrated. They've had some fairly tough matchups for them. Look for them to play pretty big against, again, key to Buffalo is if you stop McCoy, they ain't doing anything. So you stop a couple deep balls and then control them in the run game, they should be able to control some line of scrimmage. And depending on Chip Kelly's offense, which is really built for Colin Kaepernick, he's Kaepernick from 3 years ago, if he comes out and he's healthy and he's able to run that zone read and hit some spots to Curley, hit Torrey Smith down the seam, I think the Niners could put together a win that most people won't be up. So again, we got Niners 26, Bills 20.
All right, you gotta love that pick right there. Kaepernick could go off. You don't know, right? He wasn't playing that well. Who knows? That I like that one. We'll check in on that one next week. I think you guys might be on a hot streak here with the picks.
Let's see what we can do.
Definitely. All right, thanks, man. I appreciate you calling in. Cunningham's Picks. That's Jeremy Cunningham from the dirtcannon.com. Check him out. Thanks, Jeremy.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good week.
All right. All right, that was Jeremy Cunningham from the dirtcannon.com. We do a segment with him every Wednesday night. He helps, he helps you set your fantasy lineups. He's helping you win some money. And after the break, we'll get to some more headlines. We'll do the good, the bad, and the ugly. We still have Thursday night football, and we'll still get real.
Hey guys, the NFL is back. It's time to win some cash playing fantasy football. TheDirtCannon.com is a local company that has your back. They have produced over 60% winners on FanDuel, DraftKings, and now even Yahoo. TheDirtCannon.com will help you build, play, and win. Build a better team with TheDirtCannon.com. Use promo code RDST and get $5 off forever. And try the Silver membership this week for free. Visit TheDirtCannon.com.
Definitely check them out. As we've talked about on the show previously, TheDirtCannon.com is the official fantasy partner of Real Deal Sports Talk with KP. And they are also a local Colorado company. So definitely support them. Check them out. You can, check them out on the World Wide Web. So if you got to travel and, you're worried about your lineup, they'll be able to help you out. And always listen to them, as we have Jeremy every Wednesday night and Chris every Saturday morning to do our college football segment on Saturdays. So let's get into it. Let's move on to some more headlines. What do we got to talk about? Division leaders right now in the NFL. On the NFC side, you have Dallas, Minnesota, Atlanta, and Seattle. And on the AFC side, you have New England, Pittsburgh, Houston, and Denver and Oakland are tied in the West, with Oakland getting the nod as they have division wins there. So if there was, the playoffs started today, Oakland would be the division winner with that tiebreaker. So, some of those teams definitely didn't see doing what they're doing. Minnesota's sitting at 5-0, didn't see that. Nobody saw Dallas doing what they're doing. Atlanta is a bit of a surprise to me. There's a lot of people who thought New England would fall flat, and they didn't. Houston's leading their division, but only at 3-2, and we're all seeing what's happening there with that situation and their injuries. So we'll have to see how it plays out, but you know what? At the 4 or 5 game mark, it's very interesting. I say 4 or 5 because Seattle had a bye, so they're only at 3-1. Another thing that's interesting, Calvin Johnson. We've been talking about him every Wednesday after Dancing with the Stars. This week he did like a Motown Grease type dance. To me, I thought it, as a non-dancer, I thought he did great. I thought the judges shorthanded him on his scores. I ended up watching more than just his performance and saw some of the other dancers who, either got better scores or the same scores as him. And I really don't understand how they score anything on that show, but I think he did better than some of the people who got better scores and better than some of the people who got, the same score. So, I don't know. Vote to keep him in. Let's keep Calvin Johnson going, man. Jerry Rice was on the show with him, threw him a pass. It's the first time they had met. So, it was pretty cool. CBS reported, I saw this little thing, 214 turnovers so far in the NFL this season. And one team accounts for 0 of them. Now, they have forced 20-something of them. I think almost 20. And that's the Minnesota Vikings. This team is playing out of their mind on defense. They're playing mistake-free on offense. Who does that kind of remind you of? Maybe last year's Carolina Panthers, who played good defense, a mistake-free offense? Of course, they didn't do it till the end of the season, and the Vikings are doing it now as they still try and figure out what they are on offense. They lost another offensive tackle this week. They're bringing in Jake Long, most likely. So they're still trying to figure out what they're going to be on offense as this defense is holding it down on a historic level. On a 2000 Baltimore Ravens, on a 1985 Chicago Bears level. Look at the numbers. They're almost identical. Right now, they are balling out. We've talked about it many times. So very cool. 214 turnovers in the NFL, 0 from Minnesota. As we alluded to in the upset game, Kaepernick is going to start for the 49ers this week. We just talked about that on the upset alert. We'll have to see what he has. Expect him to get a lot of backlash because now he gets to play. Because the 49ers redid his contract, making him a free agent at the end of this season and taking away his guaranteed money if he gets hurt. It's a business deal. They weren't going to pay him if he didn't rework, or play him if he didn't rework his contract, because they weren't going to have him get hurt and then owe him $14 million next year. He would have rode the bench the whole season had they not reworked the contract. This is not because of anything else than that. Believe that. Greg Hardy, he wants to go try MMA. Go ahead. Go get your aggression out that way, big boy. Go get your face beat in. You go beat some faces in. And, move on. Just get out of our face. You're not going to be a top fighter, so just go fight on these little rinky-dink cards and be able to fight and not go to jail for it. On a sad note, LSU's mascot has finally passed of the cancer we talked about him having a few weeks ago. Sad news there. I don't know exactly how I feel about teams using live mascots. Don't know. What do you guys think? Is it something that we should have, live mascots for teams? Should we be raising these animals to go back to the wild since we're, as a species, just wiping things out? I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. Not for this show. Not really a sports topic, though, huh? But nonetheless, Charlie down there, he passed. All right, let's do some good, some bad, and some ugly. All right, the good. The good this week so far has to be Big Papi. He didn't necessarily end his career in a good way as the Boston Red Sox were swept out of the playoffs by the Cleveland Indians. But when he came back out after the game, and those 15, 20 minutes he gave to the crowd, saluting everybody, taking his hat off, waving, nodding and to every set of fans, each direction, the emotion that he showed, the career that he had, 20 years, 14 years in Boston, 3 World Series, a World Series MVP, 10 All-Star games, 541 home runs, 1,768 RBIs, 2,472 hits, and a .268 career batting average. Now, there's people with better averages, more hits, more home runs, all that stuff. But Big Papi, he was a character, man. He was a guy that was fun to play, or fun to watch, excuse me. I never played him. He was fun to watch play. Not because he was super athletic, but he just had this Babe Ruth-like look. He came up to the plate, he swung a big bat. You knew each and every time it might be a home run. When he was back-to-back in the lineup with Manny Ramirez, that was exciting to watch. It was like watching Rockies teams with Galarraga and Bichette and Castilla. He will be missed. He meant a lot. I'm sure he'll still be around. You'll still see him with the Red Sox. You'll probably still see him